episode of Learn Japanese from Some Guy. In today's video, we're going to go through chapter 2 of my textbook, where we will learn how to use des, wa, and ga. Very important lesson, extremely useful. So, without further ado, 始まりましょうか。よろしくお願いします。Alright everyone, here we are, chapter 2, my first Japanese sentence. And like I mentioned before, today we're going to focus on learning about the copula des and the subject marking particles wa and ga. So first, we're going to check out using des. Okay, so defining what des means is a little difficult. At the beginning of the chapter, I called it a copula, which is a grammatical term for a word that acts as a linking verb, or something that connects the subject of the sentence with the complement. But don't worry if you don't understand what that means, because I don't really understand it and understand it either. It's kind of a grammatical concept that's foreign to the English language, so it's really difficult to translate what it means exactly. But a lot of people like to think of it as being equivalent to be. So I think when you're first starting out, maybe this can kind of help you understand the meaning of some sentences, but I don't think it's a great idea because to be and des are not the exact same. Sometimes they seem similar, but there are ways in which they differ. So if at first you like to think of des as being to be, I guess it's okay, but I don't think it's a good habit to get into. So just know that they often act similar sometimes, but they are not the exact same. So anyway, if you have any experience listening to or reading Japanese, maybe you like to watch anime, for example, then you have undoubtedly heard the word des hundreds, if not thousands of times. It's almost in every sentence. So if you have not heard it, that's okay. We're going to talk about it and I'll explain to you how to use it. So now we're going to look at using des and its negative form, de wa arimasen. And please notice that the character here is being used as a particle, so we pronounce it as wa. So we have des and de wa arimasen. And please notice the pronunciation of des. So even though the last character is a su, we don't say desu. For emphasis, sometimes you might hear that, but normally when people are speaking, they just say des. So anyway, here we have some example sentences. So number 1, watashi no namae wa Jeremy desu. Watashi no namae wa Jeremy desu. So please notice here, and we have in the blue, watashi no namae wa, so my name, Jeremy desu, is Jeremy. So here we have a nice sentence you can use. Just replace your name right here, and you can tell someone what your name is in Japanese. And number 2, watashi no namae wa Jeremy de wa arimasen. Watashi no namae wa Jeremy de wa arimasen. So my name is not Jeremy. So here we have a really good example of using des and de wa arimasen. Des is affirmative, while de wa arimasen is negative. So my name is Jeremy. My name is not Jeremy. And number 3, kyou wa samui desu. Kyou wa samui desu. It's cold today. And number 4, watashi wa anime ga suki desu. Watashi wa anime ga suki desu. I like anime. And number 5, watashi wa anime ga suki de wa arimasen. Watashi wa anime ga suki de wa arimasen. I don't like anime. And here we have another clear example. Suki desu means I like, and suki de wa arimasen means I don't like. Number 6, watashi wa nihonjin de wa arimasen. Watashi wa nihonjin de wa arimasen. I am not Japanese. So nihonjin is the Japanese word for a Japanese person. So watashi wa nihonjin de wa arimasen. I am not Japanese. Number 7, kare no kuruma wa aka de wa arimasen. Kare no kuruma wa aka de wa arimasen. His car is not red. So here we have the word for red, aka. All right, so now moving on, we're going to look at the subject marking particles wa and ga. So it is beyond the scope of this book to explain in great detail the differences between wa and ga. Some people in the past have, complained to me that they thought my book didn't cover enough details, but the reality is that there are entire textbooks, hundreds of pages long, that discuss the usages of wa and ga. So I don't want to go into too much detail here. I think it's something that you can study once you get, really good with the language and you really want to know the finer details. But in this chapter, I'm just going to teach one difference that I think is really easy to understand and very important. So here we go. The interpretation, a typical interpretation of wa, when it's translated into English, can be something like as for subject. So I mentioned before that wa is a subject marking particle. So it usually is used to introduce the subject of some sentence or some idea. So here we have an example. 私はアイスクリームが好きです。私はアイスクリームが好きです。So I like ice cream. And please notice here we have the Katakana word for ice cream. アイスクリーム. So anyway, we can look at this sentence, I like ice cream, and we can see that the translation is very simple, I like ice cream, but up here, we have as for subject. So another more literal translation of this sentence could be, as for me, I like ice cream. So we can see that wa is really marking me, who likes ice cream. Watashi wa, I like ice cream. Watashi wa ice cream ga suki desu. The one who likes ice cream is me. Okay, and here we have another example. Kono e wa kirei desu. Kono e wa kirei desu. This painting is beautiful. So here we have wa marking the painting. So what is beautiful? The painting. So we could also think of this sentence as being, as for this painting, it is beautiful. And here we have another example that uses both wa and ga in the same idea. So we have 私は日本人ではありません。彼が日本人です。私は日本人ではありません。彼が日本人です。So I'm not Japanese, he is. So here we have wa marking watashi as the subject of the first sentence, and now we have ga marking the subject of the second sentence. We have watashi wa and kare ga. So what's the difference here? Okay, so I'll explain. Ga is typically used when we want to emphasize the subject of the sentence. So in here we're saying, I'm not Japanese, he is. So maybe someone's asking or someone's saying, hey, Jeremy's Japanese. And I say, no, not me, him, he is Japanese. So the same way, you can imagine if someone was accusing you of being someone who robbed a bank, in your defense, you might say something like, I didn't rob the bank, he did. So in English, we use stress or a different intonation when we want to emphasize something or someone. But in Japanese, we can do the same thing with ga. All right, so just remember that ga is used to emphasize the subject of a sentence, whereas wa is usually used to just introduce and maybe say something general about the subject. All right, so now we're going to look at some practice problems. So we're going to fill in the blanks with wa, ga, desu, or de wa arimasen. So here we have the Japanese sentence and the romaji. So I encourage everyone when you're filling out the answers to write down the answers in hiragana or katakana, and in the future in kanji. It will really help reinforce what you're learning. So as you write these answers down, please try to use hiragana to do so. So anyway, I'd like everyone now to pause the video, and we're going to fill in the blanks and read the English sentence to kind of help you out to know if it's desu or de wa arimasen. So pause the video, answer the questions, and I think we got one more at the bottom. Okay, pause the video and answer the question. All right, so I'm assuming you have paused the video and answered the question. So now let's look and check our answers. So number 1, 彼の名前はジャックです。彼の名前はジャックです。His name is Jack. So we could also use ga in this case. We could also say 彼の名前がジャックです。So if we wanted to emphasize his name is Jack. But wa is also okay. Number 2, I'm not American, he is. 私はアメリカ人ではありません。彼がアメリカ人です。私はアメリカ人ではありません。彼がアメリカ人です。And really just a quick note. So earlier we saw the word for a Japanese person, which was Nihonjin. And here we have American person, Amerikajin. So in Japanese, if you want to say the nationality of a person, all you have to do is say the country they're from and add jin, the character for person. So if you're from Canada, you would be a Kanada-jin. Or if you're from France, you'd be Francejin. So really, really easy way to kind of say the nationalities of a person. Just a quick tip. And number 3, 今日は寒いです。今日は寒いです。It's cold today. Number 4, this isn't a pen, this is a pencil. これはペンではありません。これは鉛筆です。これはペンではありません。これは鉛筆です。And number 5, Mount Fuji is beautiful. 富士山は綺麗です。富士山は綺麗です。Mount Fuji is beautiful. All right, so anyway, that's going to do it for today. Before we finish, let's check out a quick chapter summary. So we have, let's see, the first thing is that we learned the subject of a sentence can be marked with either wa or ga. Okay, so we learned that wa is usually used to talk about something in general or just introduce a subject, while ga marks the subject of a sentence but with emphasis. Okay, it's very important. Third one, we learned that des functions similarly to be in English, but it's not 100% equivalent, so don't think of them as being the exact same. It might kind of hurt you later when you're studying. And finally, we learned that the negative form of des is de wa arimasen. So if we have a sentence like watashi no namae wa Jeremy desu, my name is Jeremy. If I wanted to say my name is not Jeremy, I can just replace des with de wa arimasen. So, watashi no namae wa Jeremy de wa arimasen. Very easy. All right, and next time we're going to look at chapter 3, and we're going to learn how to talk about our likes and dislikes with ski and ski de wa arimasen. So, very, very useful lesson. Be sure to check that one out, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe if you wish to get updated on when future videos are released. Also, if you wish to support this series, or you're just so motivated you can't wait for that next video to come out, my book is available for purchase on Amazon, the link for which will be in the description box below. As always, your comments and reviews are greatly appreciated, so be sure to let me know what you think. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Mata ne!